about a tool that has become absolutely essential in modern software development, GitHub Actions. Today, we're going to break down what it is, how it actually works, and show you why it is so much more than you probably think. So if you're a developer, you know this feeling, right? Your job isn't just about writing cool code. There's this whole other world of, well, chores that can totally bog you down, especially when a project starts getting busy. I mean, you've got to sort through new issues, you have to review pull requests, you're constantly building and testing to make sure nothing's broken, then you have to write release notes, manage version numbers. The list just goes on, and the bigger the project, the worse it gets. And that really gets to the heart of the problem here. Workflow overload. All these manual, super repetitive tasks start to eat up all your time and energy, pulling you away from what you actually want to be doing, which is, writing code and solving interesting problems. But what if you could just make all of that stuff happen automatically? Just imagine a world where every time something happens in your repository, a little robot army kicks into gear and handles all that busy work for you. Well, that world is real, and it's called GitHub Actions. And its real power is that it's built right into GitHub, the place where your code already lives. It was designed from the ground up to solve this exact problem of workflow overload. Let's just look at the official definition for a sec. It's a platform to automate developer workflows. Now, I want you to focus on that last word, workflows, plural. That is so important because most people hear GitHub Actions and they immediately think of just one thing. And that one thing is CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous deployment. And look, Actions is amazing at CI/CD, but that is just the tip of the iceberg. If you only think of it as a CI/CD tool, you're missing out on almost everything it can do. It can automate pretty much any process you can dream of inside your repo. So how does all this magic actually happen? It really just boils down to 3 core ideas that fit together in a super simple, logical way. Okay, first, you've got an event. An event is, well, it's pretty much anything that happens in your repository. Somebody opens a new issue, that's an event. A contributor creates a pull request, also an event. You push some new code, you guessed it, that's an event. Next up, you have the workflow. A workflow is the automated process that you want to run when a certain event happens. It's kind of like setting up a rule. When this happens, do that. The workflow is the do that part. It's basically a sequence of jobs that kick off automatically. And finally, the smallest piece of the puzzle, the action. An action is just a single individual task. But here's the beautiful part. These are often pre-built, reusable bits of code. You don't have to write a script to check out your repository. You just use the official checkout action. It's like a Lego block. So let's put it all together. It's simple. An event happens, say a Git push. That event triggers a specific workflow you've defined. And then that workflow runs a series of actions to get the job done. It's really just a powerful if this, then that system for your entire development process. Okay, now that we know the building blocks, let's see how they come together for the most popular use case, building a full-blown CI/CD pipeline. This is where GitHub Actions really flexes its muscles. And the difference between the old way and the GitHub way is just night and day. Before, you probably had a separate Jenkins server, a nightmare of plugins to manage, and maybe even a dedicated person to handle it all. With Actions, it's totally integrated, it's configured with a simple text file that lives right there with your code, and it's built for developers to own themselves. So what does one of these config files actually look like? Well, it's just a simple YAML file. And I promise, once you get the basic structure, it's incredibly easy to read and not intimidating at all. Let's peek at the key parts. First, you've got the on keyword. This is your trigger. It defines your event. It's how you tell GitHub Actions when to run this workflow. So here we're saying, hey, kick this off anytime there's a push or a pull request. Next up is runs on runs. This tells Actions what kind of computer to use, the virtual machine where your job will actually run. And for every single job, GitHub spins up a fresh new one for you. You can pick from Ubuntu, Windows, Mac OS, which is awesome for testing your code across different platforms. And finally, we have steps. This is where the actual work gets done. You'll see 2 main things here. The uses keyword is for calling one of those pre-built reusable actions, those Lego blocks we talked about. And the run keyword is for just running simple command line stuff, like npm install or Gradle build. Okay, theory time is over. We've seen the building blocks, events, workflows, actions, and we know how to define them in a YAML file.
So now, let's put it all together with a real-world example, building a complete CI pipeline that takes our project and packages it into a Docker container.
So here's the plan. Our workflow is going to do 4 things. First, it's going to check out the latest code. Second, it'll run our project's build command. Third, it's going to build a Docker image from that. And finally, it'll push that new image up to a container registry so it's ready to be deployed.
And this right here, this is where the real magic happens. Instead of manually scripting a bunch of Docker commands, Docker login, Docker build, Docker tag, Docker push, we can use a single super powerful pre-built action. This one line of code handles all of that complexity for us. It's incredible. But hang on, you might be thinking, how does it log in? You can't just paste your password into a text file, right? Of course not. And the answer is GitHub Secrets. You store your credentials securely in your repository's settings, and then you can safely reference them in your workflow like this. No hard-coded passwords ever. It's the right way to do it. And that's really the whole story. With just a handful of simple, declarative lines in a YAML file, we've built a complete, secure, automated pipeline. Now, every single time you push code, it will be automatically built, tested, containerized, and published. You don't have to lift a finger. And remember, this power goes way beyond just CI/CD. Think about automating issue labeling, or welcoming new contributors, or even auto-publishing your release notes. So take a look at your own projects, think about all those little manual steps you do every single day, and I'll leave you with this question. What's the first workflow?
Had that feeling where you're spending way more time managing your code than actually writing it? Well, today we're going to dive into GitHub Actions. It's a seriously powerful tool that's all about getting you back to what you actually love to do, building awesome software. So, why do we even need something like GitHub Actions? Well, it was born out of a problem that I think every single developer knows deep in their bones. I mean, really think about it. If you maintain any kind of project, especially an open source one, the work doesn't just stop when you hit git push. Nope, a lot of the time that's where the real work begins. Just look at this list for a second. What do you notice? None of this is actually about writing new code, is it? This is what we call organizational churn. It's all the tedious, repetitive stuff, sorting through bug reports, reviewing other people's code, manually bumping version numbers, welcoming new folks. It's all super important for sure, but man, does it eat up your time and energy. And that's the real thief right there. All of this manual work pulls you away from what you're actually there to do. Solve interesting problems, build new features. It's a total drag on your productivity and creativity. And that is the exact problem that GitHub Actions is here to solve. So, how does it pull this off? Well, GitHub Actions is built on 3 really simple but powerful ideas that all work together to let you automate pretty much anything you can think of. First up, we have the event. Just think of this as the starting gun. It's basically any specific thing that happens inside your repository. Someone pushes new code, a user opens a new issue, a contributor submits a pull request. All of these are events that can kick off one of your automations. Next, you've got the action. An action is a single self-contained task. It's like a reusable building block. So one action might check out your code, another might install a specific version of Java, and another could send a message to Slack. And the best part? The community has already built and shared thousands of these things. And that brings us to the workflow. This is the whole recipe. A workflow is what listens for a specific event, and when that event happens, it runs a whole series of actions in whatever order you want. It's the glue that holds all these little automated pieces together. So, let's see how it all clicks into place. It's really just a simple if this, then that logic. For example, if a new pull request is created, then our testing workflow automatically gets triggered, which then executes a sequence of actions like checking out the code, installing all the dependencies, and running our entire test suite, all without you lifting a finger. Okay, so now let's talk about the biggest, most powerful use case for GitHub Actions, building a fully integrated continuous integration and continuous delivery, or CI/CD, pipeline. For years, if you wanted CI/CD, you had to wrestle with all these separate third-party services. It meant complicated server setups, plug-in nightmares, and you often needed a dedicated DevOps specialist just to keep the lights on. GitHub Actions completely flips that script. It puts a simple, powerful CI/CD system right inside your repository, and it's all managed by a single text file that lives right there with your code. So what does this actually get you? Well, it boils down to 3 huge advantages. It's integrated, meaning your automation is version controlled right along with your app. It's simple, designed so that any developer can get started, not just a DevOps guru, and it's incredibly powerful with a massive marketplace of actions that let you connect to any service you can dream up. Okay, I know this might all sound a bit abstract, but the reality is surprisingly straightforward. Let's take a quick peek under the hood and see what a workflow file actually looks like. I promise, it's not as scary as it sounds. First thing you gotta know, your entire automation is just defined in a plain text file. It uses a format called YAML, and it lives in a special directory right inside your project. So it's super easy to find, edit, and keep track of changes. Inside that file, you start with the trigger. You use the on keyword to tell it which event should kick things off. In this case, we're saying, hey, run this workflow whenever there's a push to a branch or a new pull_ request is opened. It's that simple.
Next up, you decide where your automation is going to run. The runs on keyword lets you pick a virtual machine, like the latest version of Ubuntu, or maybe you need Windows or Mac OS. GitHub takes care of spinning up these servers for you.
Now, the uses keyword. This is where the real magic happens. This is how you tap into that huge library of pre-built actions. Here, we're just saying, use the official checkout action to get a copy of our code onto that virtual machine. We didn't have to write a single line of script to do that. But what if there isn't a pre-made action for what you need? No sweat. The run keyword lets you execute any command line script you want, just like you would on your own computer. So here, we're just running a standard Gradle build command. Easy. Okay, let's hit pause for a second and address the elephant in the room, because this is a big one. You obviously can't just paste your secret API keys or passwords into a file that's checked into your repository. So, how do you handle secret safeties? And the answer is elegant and, most importantly, secure. GitHub gives you something called repository secrets. You go into your repository settings, store your sensitive info in this secure vault, and then you can reference it in your workflow using this special syntax. The actual secret is never exposed in your code or in the logs. All right, let's zoom back out. We've seen the what and the how, but let's talk about the why. Why should you actually invest your time in setting all this up? What's the real payoff here? The answer is really, really simple. It's about focus. It's about shipping better code faster. GitHub Actions is like hiring a tireless robot assistant to handle all the boring, repetitive tasks so that you don't have to. It frees you up to spend your brainpower on what you're actually good at, designing, building, and creating. So if you remember anything from all this, let it be these 4 things. First, you can automate way more than just CI/CD. Second, you build these workflows with simple, reusable blocks. Third, your automation logic lives right there with your code. And most important of all, this whole thing is designed to help you focus your energy on building, not just managing. And that really just leaves us with one final question to think about. I want you to look at your own projects. Find that one repetitive, manual step that just drives you crazy every time you have to do it. And ask yourself, what tedious task are you going to automate first?